Good evening and welcome to this video about Austria, the new nation of ban zones. So why am I saying this? Well, it's because in Austria we now have a couple of different things that are banned in some locations or others. For example, we have alcohol bans in certain streets in certain cities. We have a burqa ban in all public places. We have a ban on all masks or everything that covers your head in public places because we wanted to ban the burqa. Our government wanted to ban the burqa, but it couldn't because of the constitution. And I'm not gonna get into this because that's some serious shit. Then we have a food ban in the underground in Vienna. We have a weapons ban in some places. I happen to disagree with the weapons ban. And we also have zones where begging is forbidden. Just ban things you don't like to see. So let's get started. First of all, some ban zones and some reasons for them. For example, the alcohol ban. It was introduced in Innsbruck, the capital of Tyrol. You may know Tyrol at least. It was introduced because of bars. So why would it be introduced because of a place where they sell alcohol? Well, the thing is, it was meant to prevent people from drinking in public. Because in Austria, there is no public intoxication law. You can drink everywhere, and it's kind of part of our culture. It's a really nice thing to go outside, sit on a bench in a park or in a public place, and just be able to open a bottle of wine or a can of beer or whatever. Just being able to drink outside. That is something that is definitely in Austrian culture included. In Innsbruck, they decided no, in certain places you can't drink anymore. So why is this? In essence, it is because of the problem with bars that they are selling the alcohol very, very expensive. And expensive alcohol, well, people don't buy it. So they go to a shop, buy a bottle of wine, for example, sit on a bench in a public space. In Innsbruck, it's very touristic, so there's lots of nice spaces. You have a nice scenery, as you can see in the background. This is Innsbruck, by the way, the city you can see here. They can drink there. It's in the evening. People like to drink. They can go outside and have a glass of wine, a can of beer. The problem was that bars were not making as much profit anymore for obvious reasons. For them, it appeared so bad that they had to lobby the city council to forbid people from drinking in public. And they did. And there were lots of protest actions, like, for example, people going into a pub garden, these little places in front of bars and pubs and restaurants where you can eat and drink. They ordered a beer or a wine or something else. They got it, and then they stepped outside of the pub garden and drank it there. So they were technically criminals. It was also a protest action of a member of the city council who bought a bottle of wine, sat at a public place, opened it with a friend, and started drinking it. They called the police. Well, the people drinking called the police, so to turn themselves in, basically, and to make a case to the High Court of Austria. But the High Court of Austria ruled, you can do this. It is ludicrous, in my opinion. It's part of a culture, and we shouldn't sacrifice our culture for, well, profit. Then there's also the thing with alcohol ban zones in Vienna. We have two of them, I think. There were locations with a bad reputation, underground stations, for example, certain underground stations that had lots of ruffians there and homeless people and youth without hope. They were drinking there. They were maybe annoying sometimes, annoying people. There were also the constant talk about, well, if you go there, there is maybe an attack on you because they're all crazy. Well, I had to go to one of those stations regularly for 2 years. Nothing ever happened to me, and I didn't even notice that many drunks. So it is a measurement to make people feel secure that never actually enter those places. Of course, this is also ridiculous because those people will just move. They will go to another place and drink there. And then they will forbid drinking there. And in the end, you can't drink in Austria anywhere because people want to feel safe or bars want to make a profit. This is not how this is supposed to work with a free country and everything. Also, of course, the ruffians, the drinking, stinking, maybe annoying homeless people were a deterrent for tourists. In some places, occasionally, maybe. This was also a reason given why they banned drinking. And also a reason why they banned begging in some places, because the beggars were, according to the politicians instating this ban, they were annoying. And they were annoying tourists, customers, and all people, and so they banned them. Of course, this also just moves the problem to another street, another location, moves them outside of the cities. And people begging in Austria, homeless people mostly, well, they already have it quite bad, so I really don't see the point in criminalizing them for what they are doing to survive. Also, usually in cities like Vienna, where I live, you see a beggar occasionally somewhere. It's really not that big of a deal. They're not annoying. They're just sitting there with a little paper sheet where they've written, well, I need money for food, or I need, if they're a little bit more creative, I need money for drugs. But they don't annoy people. They usually don't run around and follow you and try to, I don't know, annoy you till you give them money. They are just people sitting in the street. Yeah, they ask for money, but really, I mean, beggars, they will always exist in countries with lots of people, and some of them are maybe they are guilty of something, maybe they have stolen something, maybe their situation is on them, but they are so far down in the social order, I really don't think we should put them down even more. This is a really depressing topic for me, so I'll move on to food. Yes, in Vienna's underground lines, it's forbidden to eat. Now, this ban has been instated a couple of days ago, and there are lots of posters. For example, the one you can see on screen right now is Noodle Case Unsolved. It tries to make eating appear like it's a crime. You're a deviant, you're a criminal, you can't do that. It's ludicrous. And why was it instated? Of course, first reason, it's dirty. People leave foodstuff around, people leave it on the seats. The underground staff has to clean it up and all of that, which is, let's just say I was going by underground for now 4 years, and I've never really noticed that in any kind of horrendous amount of food lying around. It's really just occasionally somewhere someone may have lost half a burger or a piece of pizza, but this is so rare, I really don't see the point. The second reason given was, well, people are smelly if they eat because all people eat tuna pizza in the underground, which is also not true. You have the occasional asshole who eats, well, tuna pizza or something else that smells like garlic or onions or all this stinky kind of food, all this smelly food. Well, I wouldn't say stinky, it can smell quite tasty, it's just smelly. They also said that people are annoyed by this, and yes, they are. There are some assholes, as said, that are really annoying with their food, but really, you don't usually eat in the underground because you like the ambience or the general surrounding. Eating food in the underground basically means you don't have time otherwise. You're coming from work and you need to do something after work and you're trying to get some calories in so you don't you don't fall down while doing the next thing. I really don't think there is a big problem of people eating in the underground. It is a non-issue, and it was also partly instated because There has been the whole thing about people are generally smelly in certain lines of the underground, which I disagree with. I mean, there are underground lines with a bad reputation for being smelly, for being criminalized, but that's also not really true. It's something you may see sometimes in the periphery of the underground, but it's no big deal. There was also this funny little thing where a certain politician was starting to hand out deodorants in an underground line because he was of the opinion, or was it a she? I don't remember. Was of the opinion people in this specific line are specifically smelly, so they should use more deodorant. Yeah, this all has mutated to a general food ban in the underground. Is this sensible? It also includes all kinds of other foods, not just the smelly, sticky kind of foods. It's everything because you can't just say, well, people should really not eat in the underground, for example, noodles or anything else that could drop. It's really hard to keep your balance if you're standing trying to eat something and the underground is making a sharp turn, the underground is stopping suddenly because the driver was an idiot and didn't realize that the next station is just around the corner. Things like that. People tend to drop certain things, but for example, if you're eating some sweets or a croissant or anything else like that, that's really not that much of a problem. So, this is another ban I find frankly just ridiculous, and we will now move on to the main course weapons. In Austria, I've made a video about it, you can own all kinds of weapons, but not guns. So anything that shoots is, well, not anything that shoots, you can own a bow and a crossbow. But if it's a firearm, you need a license or a registration, depending on the weapon. But you can own all kinds of knives, you can own, well, swords, battle axes, warhammers, whatever, and you can carry them around all the time. Unless you want to enter specific zones. For example, I had to surrender a knife to the police when trying to enter the Chancellor's office on the national holiday. It's national celebration and the offices of the government are open to the public, and I wanted to enter, met my chancellor. I had to give them a knife I was carrying, but I got it back afterwards and there was no problem. The police didn't even go like, oh, you wanted to kill the chancellor, come with us, we have to ask you questions. No, it was just, okay, you were carrying this and you forgot it. This was the case, I just forgot it in my jacket. They said, okay, yeah, we are gonna take it from you and when you leave you can get it back, and I did. It was no big deal. And now there's a new law instated. It's called Paragraph 36B, Security Police Law, Weapon Ban Zones. Yes, very, very nice. And it basically means that now politicians can instate weapon ban zones, which ban all weapons, also pepper sprays, knives, of course, swords and guns and all the other stuff you can use to harm someone, but also objects that may be used to harm someone. So this would also include, for example, my own training sword, because I'm going to training by the underground, and of course I need to carry my training sword to the location. I really don't like this. The mayor of Vienna decided to lobby for a weapon ban zone in the whole city of Vienna. Yes. Just imagine, all 1.8 million people in Vienna cannot go outside anymore with a knife or with anything else in their pockets, in their backpacks, or wherever. They can't go out anymore with any kind of weapon or thing that could be used as a weapon. And this is a lot of things. I can imagine hitting somebody with a bottle made of glass. That would hurt a lot. So is a glass bottle now a weapon? Can I still carry it around? I don't know. This is also a funny thing where the right wing and the left wing joined together to make something stupid, because the mayor of Vienna is Michael Ludwig, a member of the Social Democrats, And the minister who introduced this law is Herbert Kickl, a member of the Freedom Party Austria, which is kind of right-wing. So the left-winger used something the right-winger made and wants to fuck with everybody. And I dislike this a lot. Like, this is why I made this video and the previous video on weapons, on melee weapons. Why hasn't this been introduced already? Well, the law also states that it needs to be a place where previously some attacks have happened, where the assumption that attacks will happen in the future is given, where the assumption is reasonable. It also should include a time frame. So, for example, in a certain area where there's a lot of, let's say, gang crime. We don't really have gang crime in Austria, even if there was a shooting a month ago where someone died in the center of Vienna, but this is rare to say the very least. You could, for example, take a certain location where there's a lot of gang crime and you could say, okay, let's instate a weapon ban there. But this would also mean that, for example, a woman carrying a pepper spray, like some do, would also be required to remove the pepper spray before entering this zone. And if a policeman would frisk her there and find the pepper spray, well, she would be in trouble. I really don't think this is the intention of a law to make people insecure, to make people unable to defend themselves. Because you don't need to defend yourself in Austria, usually. It really is is it? I don't know. I don't know if it is a deterrent for criminals if there is the possibility that somebody is carrying some sort of weapon, because of course nobody is carrying a gun in Austria. This is not even, well, it's not even unusual. It's basically unheard of. People carrying guns in Austria, it's the police and it's certain security companies, but normal people, you need a license for it, you need a reason for it, and you just don't do it. And if the police sees you with a gun somewhere, they will ask questions, and they will ask a lot of questions, and you need to have your license at the ready when carrying a gun. Even criminals, I mean, shooting crime, people shooting each other is rare in Austria, and it usually happens in family cases where, for example, if someone is a hunter, shoots the wife or gets shot by the wife. So things like that. It's not something that happens in the streets. In the streets, it's knife crime. It's people getting threatened and getting robbed with knives or things like that. So I do think people carrying pepper sprays, they feel more secure, and they can also just pull it out if they have it at the ready, which would be kind of useful, and go like, well, leave. Get away. You just have a knife and I will pepper spray you. So fuck off. Also, I personally carry usually a knife around, not for self-defense, because I don't think I need it, but still, I mean, if I would get attacked, I could defend myself with it. I really like to have a knife because it's useful. For example, if I'm at the university and I get hungry, I like to not go to fast food restaurants. I like to go to a shop, buy a sausage, for example, a dry sausage, and some kind of bread. And then I can, for example, sit on a bench at the university, pull out my knife, cut the sausage, cut the bread, and eat it. It is more comfortable than eating it like a savage. Usually people who don't have a knife and need a knife act very surprised if you just stick your hand in your pocket and pull one out, for example, for opening a package. It's useful to have a knife around. I have one in my pocket. I've never hurt somebody with it. I never tried to hurt somebody with it. I never threatened somebody with it. But I used it a lot for very different things. I mean, you can tighten some screws with it. And so I think a general weapon ban is stupid. Ban zones, like weapon ban zones in specific here, for little areas, like in the law, like it should be in the law, is also pointless because it is a small area, like a couple of streets, maybe a public space where some crimes have happened, or a park even. Yes, I think that wouldn't work because people are moving in and out of there all the time, and maybe someone is carrying something and doesn't think about it, and then he gets in trouble. Well, that's just a lot of bureaucracy. People who want to rob people won't go there, yes, probably, but they will just move to somewhere else. Or even they just don't care and still rob people exactly where they robbed people previously. They just wait until no police officer is there, and if nobody is there to stop them from carrying knives, they can just carry a knife. I should also mention that in Austria, this is a very specific thing. Carrying a weapon means you have it in reach. You can pull it out rather quickly. So if you have your knife in a backpack, you're not technically carrying it because you need to remove your backpack first, and then you can pull it out. So there's that. But that also means that if I, for example, I would put my knife in a backpack and there was a robber who obviously would also carry his knife in a backpack because we don't want to get in trouble with the police, both of us, he would just remove his backpack, pull out his knife, and threaten me. And I wouldn't realize that I'm gonna get robbed until he pulls out the knife. And at that point, I'm too late. I'm no longer able to pull out my knife because removing the backpack, I'm kind of getting tired of saying backpack, is too slow. But if I would have it in a pocket, I could just pull it out and say, hey, dude, I don't want trouble, you don't want trouble, and we don't want to get hurt. I really think that is just a detriment for people doing what the law requires, but it's no detriment for criminals. There have been some zones in other cities where weapons were forbidden. The police hasn't found any people carrying weapons in these zones. So there's that. And it's also something that is especially Austrian. If the police doesn't want to execute a law, well, they're just ignoring it, like with the burqa ban, which was, well, it was the laughing stock of whole Austria for some time. But with the weapon ban, yeah, they just didn't find anything, and I don't think they looked that much for it, because you wouldn't just stop people and frisk them for no reason. Maybe you would if they look particularly shady, which was also one of the things the police said. Yes, if you look shady, they may consider you a potential threat, so you might get frisked. The next thing is the police can decide it for itself when something is a weapon. So if I get stopped with, let's say, a stick, and the police officer likes my face, he will say, yeah, that's okay. This stick you can carry around. It may be a 2-meter stick. You can use a stick to hurt somebody pretty badly. But the police officer may say, yeah, that's a training tool, that's fine. But if I would meet another police officer and he had a bad day, he may decide, well, you can't carry the stick around because it's a weapon. And he will take it from me, and I wouldn't like that. I may get in trouble. I may have to pay a fine. The police can decide if something is a weapon or not, or is a object that may be used to harm someone. Again, ridiculous. So, what was the point of the whole weapon ban zone? The point was, people in Vienna are already living in one of the most secure cities in the world, but we want to make them feel even more secure. Yes, this was kind of what our major said. It's not like we are living here in like Detroit or, well, the really bad parts of Berlin, for example. In Vienna, you can go out at 2 in the morning, go for a walk in most, if not all parts of town, and you don't need to fear for your life or for your purse. So it's a law that is populistic in the extreme. It's just a law for people with no idea. It's a law for people who are like, oh, somebody could carry a weapon, that must be a bad person. It's a law for nobody. It's a law for the people reading the worst kind of news in Austria. You know, we have lots of bad newspapers, and certain newspapers always write, well, there's a lot of rising crime, there has been a knife crime there's a murder there's whatever. You know the kind I'm talking about, probably. And it's made for people reading those newspapers so they can feel safe. Because, well, now the politicians have decided you can't carry a weapon. You were never allowed to be violent in Austria, obviously enough. But now they neither can anybody defend themselves, and that's good. Yes, very much so. Let's continue to the question. Will it fucking work? Will there be a decrease in crime? No. There will not be any decrease in crime simply because a criminal will always ignore the law, and anybody who is a law-abiding citizen may abide by this law, and therefore even people are even less able to defend themselves. And still, you have a lot of weapons at home all the time. Like lots of people have large kitchen knives, lots of people have an axe in Austria especially, or a Leatherman, or a stick, or a bottle, or a piece of whatever, a club basically. You can use a lot of things as a club, and you can kill people with lots of instruments. So I don't think it will work in any way. It won't do anything. The most thing it may do is, if it's introduced in some places, it will move the crime to other places. It won't work. Not at all. So, and with this final statement, I wanna end this video. Good night, everyone.